12 a.m. The dim glow of lights in a quiet mansion in Texas. Elon Musk, the man who once took humanity to Mars, has yet to close his eyes. In just one day, he will assume the greatest role of his life, reforming an entire system that many believe to be unchangeable. But at this very moment, a greater question weighs heavily on his mind. Does he have what it takes? And then, as the clock strikes midnight, a strange dream changes everything. A surreal encounter, a cryptic message, and a pact that could shape the future of all humankind. Are you curious about that dream? Join us as we unravel a story that even Elon Musk himself might find hard to believe. Drop your thoughts in the comments, and let us know which city you're watching from. We're eager to hear your perspective. And don't forget to subscribe so you can join us tomorrow for another story that will challenge the way you see the world. Part 1. A Restless Night. On the night of January 18th, 2025, the soft golden glow of the bedroom lights only accentuated the eerie stillness within the massive mansion in Austin, Texas. The spacious room, designed in a minimalist style, could not dispel the turmoil in Elon Musk's mind. He lay on the large bed, clutching a pillow tightly, as if trying to grasp some fleeting sense of peace, but it continually slipped away. In just 2 days, Elon would officially assume the role of head of the Government Efficiency and Reform Office, GERO, personally nominated by President-elect Donald Trump. This historic position tasked him with overhauling the complex administrative machinery of the United States federal government. Though he had achieved countless extraordinary feats bringing humanity closer to Mars, revolutionizing the electric vehicle industry, and leading advancements in artificial intelligence, a peculiar unease gnawed at him. He had faced seemingly insurmountable challenges before, from successfully launching a series of rockets into orbit to putting the first humans on Mars. Yet tonight, a vague sense of anxiety enveloped him, like an invisible spectre lurking in the dark corners of the room. His new role in government was a different kind of challenge, not just in scale but in nature. Reforming the US federal administrative system? It sounded like an impossible task, even for someone accustomed to accomplishing the unimaginable. Elon turned over, his eyes fixed on the ceiling where the light from a small chandelier cast faint, shifting shadows. Am I losing my way? He wondered. The question echoed in his mind like a voice in a cavern, each repetition growing heavier. Outside the window, the wind rustled through the towering oaks surrounding the estate. There was something peculiar in the sound of the wind, like a faint whisper. Elon sat up abruptly, staring into the darkness. For a fleeting moment, he felt the presence of something greater watching him, as if the universe itself were observing his every step, every decision. He chuckled softly, trying to dismiss the supernatural thoughts, but as he lay back down, a different, more unsettling thought crept in. What if I fail? This question was not just a personal fear, it was the dread of dragging an entire colossal system into the abyss. The clock on the wall struck midnight, its soft chime heavy in the stillness. Elon closed his eyes, attempting to drift into sleep, but his mind churned ceaselessly with unresolved thoughts. Then, suddenly, everything fell silent. The wind stopped blowing, and even the clock on the wall seemed to halt. An absolute silence enveloped the space. No sound remained, save for the steady but tense rhythm of his own heartbeat. Minutes later, Elon finally fell asleep, but it was no ordinary sleep. From the very moment he closed his eyes, he felt himself being pulled into another realm, a place both alien and familiar, where the boundaries of physical reality seemed to dissolve. And that was when the dream began. Part 2, The Golden Field. Elon opened his eyes, and before him was not the familiar bedroom in his mansion, but an endless field stretching into infinity. Everything glowed with a mystical golden hue, as if the very air itself was illuminated. There was no sun in the sky, yet the light blanketed everything, soft and warm, embracing his soul with a serenity he had never felt before. He moved forward, his feet seemingly not touching the ground, yet he felt every step as though he were walking. Around him, waves of light pulsed and swirled, alive and vibrant, brushing against him like whispers he could not comprehend. Elon Musk, a voice called out, clear yet seemingly emanating from everywhere at once. Its tone was unlike any voice he had ever heard, crystalline, resonating like the choir of a million stars. Elon turned his head, and from the horizon, a figure began to emerge. It was not a human in the conventional sense, but a radiant entity with no fixed form, a being of both light and shadow. Each movement it made seemed to dissolve into the surrounding space, only to reappear in another shape, fluid yet majestic. As the entity approached, Elon felt not only its grandeur but also a strange familiarity, a feeling akin to the moment when a scientist uncovers a long-sought answer, an obviousness cloaked in profound complexity. "Who are you?" Elon asked, his voice hoarse with astonishment. "I am what you believe me to be," the entity replied, its voice both gentle and thunderous. "You may call me God or the architect of all missions. You summoned me from your doubts and desires." Elon felt his throat tighten. Part of him wanted to dismiss this, to search for a scientific explanation, but another part, deeper and more primal, yearned to believe in what he was witnessing. "You say I summoned you?" he asked, striving to keep his voice steady. The entity smiled, not through any physical motion, but through the spread of a calming sensation that filled the space. "You have called to me every time you doubted yourself. Each time you faced a great decision, you did not only ask yourself, but also the universe. Tonight, I have come to answer your question." Elon froze. He wasn't sure he wanted to hear the answer. "What question?" he whispered. "You asked if you were suited for this role. You asked if you could bear this responsibility. And you asked if you had the strength to change a system you once held in disdain." Elon couldn't argue. Every word the entity spoke pierced into his mind, exposing thoughts he had hidden even from himself. "You are a creator, a disruptor, and a seeker of truth," the entity continued, its tone deepening with authority. "But your greatest challenge still lies ahead." A shiver ran down Elon's spine. "What challenge?" "The challenge of faith," the entity replied. "Faith in yourself, in people you've never fully understood, and in your ability not just to dismantle but to rebuild." Elon took a deep breath, struggling to summon the composure he was known for in the most intense moments. But here, before this entity, all his confidence seemed to melt away. "What if I fail?" he asked. The entity moved closer, its light enveloping him, making Elon feel as if he were standing at the center of a supernova. "Failure is not the end, Elon Musk. It is a lesson, a path. You were not chosen because you are perfect, but because you dare to embrace the imperfections within yourself and the world around you." The light from the entity suddenly intensified, overwhelming everything. The space trembled, and Elon felt himself being pulled toward another place somewhere even more unfamiliar than this golden field. "Wait," he shouted. "What do you want me to do?" "Listen," the entity said, "and trust." Then everything vanished, leaving only a blinding radiance that consumed Elon, drawing him into another reality where the answers might lie hidden within the chaos itself. Part 3. The Prophecy. The entity raised its hand, and in an instant, the surroundings transformed completely. The golden field disappeared, replaced by an immense space resembling a hall without end. The ceiling soared high, glittering with light from rotating crystals, like stars in a galaxy. The floor was made of a reflective material, smooth and luminous like still water, making each step feel as though it touched the universe itself. The space was filled with moving symbols, numbers, equations, and technological blueprints spinning gently in midair, emitting a soft glow. Elon looked closer and instantly recognized them: the Tesla Roadster, the Falcon rocket by SpaceX, Neuralink, and even projects yet to be unveiled, designs known only to him and his closest research teams. "These are what you have created," the entity said, its voice echoing across the expanse like a strange yet harmonious symphony. Elon stepped forward, his eyes fixed on the images. All of this represented the work of his lifetime, things he had once believed to be his ultimate mission, pushing humanity beyond its limits and building a future he had dreamed of since he was a boy devouring science fiction books. "They are significant achievements," he said softly. "But why are you showing them to me? I already know what I've done." The entity tilted its head, the light around it dimming slightly, as if to convey compassion. "Because you need to understand that these creations are only the beginning. Your greatest creation will not be a machine, Elon Musk. It will be a system of vision that embodies not just efficiency but compassion, not just innovation but integrity." Elon frowned, his hands tightening into fists. These words, though heavy with meaning, left him skeptical. "You're talking about my new role in government. To be honest, I'm not sure I'm suited for it. I'm no politician. Bureaucracy, it's like wading through mud in lead boots." The entity chuckled, a gentle sound like wind rustling through treetops. "That is precisely why you were chosen," the entity replied. "You are not bound by tradition. You see inefficiencies, yet you do not turn away. Your ability is not merely in creating tangible things. You can rebuild trust, untangle the knots that hinder progress, and inspire others to dream big." Elon took a deep breath, trying to steady himself. But reforming the government isn't like building a rocket or a neural chip. It's an entirely different beast. The people in the system, they don't want change. And if they don't want it, how can I make them do it? The entity raised its hand again, and the symbols around him began to spin faster. They intertwined, merged, and morphed. A new image appeared before Elon, a cumbersome administrative system with endless rows of desks, where people seemed like living machines caught in an endless cycle. Lines of citizens waited, their faces etched with frustration and helplessness. Elon stared at the scene, a sharp pain tightening in his chest. "What do you see?" the entity asked. "I see a system that has rotted," Elon said. "But that's nothing new. Everyone knows it's like this." "True," the entity agreed. "Everyone knows, but not everyone dares to confront it. And even fewer dare to change it. You were not chosen because you are perfect, Elon Musk. You were chosen because you refuse to accept reality when it stands in the way of progress. You are willing to put yourself at risk to break through barriers. And this time, the danger will not come from numbers or formulas, but from the people around you." Elon looked deep into the entity's light. Its words were not comforting, but they carried a strange sense of understanding, as if it knew him better than he knew himself. "You believe I can do this?" Elon asked, his voice almost challenging. "It is not that I believe, it is that you will believe," the entity replied, its light flaring brilliantly. "I am merely the echo of the answers you have sought within yourself. You already know what you must do, but you have yet to believe that you can." Elon said nothing, standing there in the vast expanse of light and floating symbols. He felt a weight pressing on his shoulders, but at the same time, a faint glimmer of hope began to flicker within him. "I will not force you," the entity continued. "But you must choose. You will take on this role not as a task but as a mission. You will succeed not because you are Elon Musk, but because you are willing to embrace the belief that nothing is impossible." And with those words, the entity raised its hand once more, preparing to unveil another vision, another part of the prophecy that Elon was not yet ready to face. Part 4. The Test of Will. Elon felt a weight pressing down on him as the entity placed its radiant hand on his shoulder. The warmth from that hand not only spread across his skin, but seemed to seep into his very soul, awakening a strange feeling, not fear, but an urge, a call that could not be denied. "But what if I fail?" Elon repeated, his voice trembling. This time it wasn't out of doubt because of the monumental significance that failure carried in the context of this mission. The entity stepped closer, its light spreading throughout the space, reflecting on every surrounding symbol like a symphony of light. "Failure," the entity said, "is the sternest teacher, yet the most honest guide. No one achieves greatness without falling. Your missteps are mirrors not just for you but for all of humanity." Elon did not respond, his gaze pensive. He knew the value of failure all too well. He had watched rockets explode on launch pads and faced days when bankruptcy loomed perilously close. But this time was different. He wasn't gambling with his fortune or reputation, but with the hopes of millions. The entity, as though understanding his train of thought, continued, "You believe this burden is yours alone. But it is not, Elon Musk. You are not a solitary hero. Your mission is to awaken the potential in others, to help them see that change is not a burden but an opportunity. You are not the only one to act. You are the one who ignites action." As the entity finished speaking, the room transformed once again. The space around him contracted and morphed into an entirely different scene. Elon found himself standing in the middle of a colossal government office where chaos reigned supreme. Lines of people stretched endlessly, their faces etched with exhaustion and frustration. Desks overflowed with paperwork, weary employees hunched over outdated computers, and clocks on the walls marked each passing second of wasted time. Elon grimaced. He was no stranger to stories of governmental bureaucracy, but seeing it like this in vivid detail was something else entirely. It felt as though a heavy stone was pressing against his chest. "What do you see?" the entity asked, its voice reverberating through the space. "I see a system that has rotted," Elon replied, his tone restrained yet laced with discomfort. "I see people imprisoned by the very machinery they serve. I see the failure of an entire system." The entity nodded, its light glowing brighter, reflecting an understanding of Elon's words. "But do you see the opportunity?" Elon scanned the scene, his eyes landing on an elderly man clutching a piece of paper in his hand, his face a mask of despair. Beside him stood a little girl, holding tightly onto her father's arm, her wide eyes brimming with fear. "Opportunity," Elon murmured. He looked at the girl and realized what the entity meant. "The opportunity to bring hope," the entity continued. "The opportunity to prove that the largest systems are not untouchable. The opportunity to create a foundation where efficiency does not sacrifice compassion." Elon took a deep breath, the weight in his chest gradually giving way to a faint glimmer of hope. But the fear still lingered. "You're right, but to change this big, I'm not sure I'm capable. A lone individual can't possibly turn an entire system around." The entity smiled, though this time the smile carried not just gentleness but also a challenge. "Did you ever think a lone individual could take humanity to Mars? Did you ever believe one person could redefine how we move on Earth? You have done those things, Elon Musk. And now you will do this not because you are extraordinary, but because you dare to accept that the impossible always begins with what others overlook." The light surrounding the entity suddenly flared, transforming the scene. The chaotic images dissolved, replaced by a different vision, a place where technology and compassion coexisted, where people worked in harmony, free from complaints and frustration. Elon saw smiles on the faces of ordinary people, children playing joyfully, and a warmth spread through his chest. "This," the entity said, "is the future you can build. But it is not a promise, it is a choice." Elon stood in silence. For the first time that night, he felt not only the weight of the mission, but also a growing belief that he might actually be able to fulfill it. "What will you choose, Elon Musk?" the entity asked, its light enveloping the space, returning everything to the same radiant golden hue as before. Part 5. The Covenant. The entity raised its hand, and in the air, a glowing tablet appeared. It was unlike anything Elon had ever seen. The tablet emitted a gentle light, surrounded by strange symbols that did not belong to any language he knew. Yet Elon felt their meaning, as though his mind was directly connected to the message within. "Elon Musk," the entity said, its tone slow but full of authority. "This is not an ordinary mission. It is not merely a role in government or another project. This is a covenant. You will not simply lead a change, you will illuminate a vision. Will you accept this role, not as a position of power, but as a commitment to serve humanity?" Elon was silent. The entity's words carried an invisible weight, making him feel as though he stood at the threshold of a decision that would change everything, not just for himself, but for the entire world. He took a deep breath, his eyes focused on the glowing tablet. "I am not a perfect leader," he said, his voice low but steady. "I don't have answers to every problem. I've failed before, and I might fail again. But if this truly has the potential to make a difference, I will give it my all." The entity smiled, and that smile brought not just comfort but also encouragement. "No one asks you to be perfect, Elon Musk. They only need you to begin. Remember, greatness is not in never falling, but in rising and moving forward after every fall." Elon looked at the tablet ablaze. The symbols on it glowed brighter, as if calling to him with a powerful intensity. Finally, with a deep breath, he reached out and touched its luminous surface. The moment his fingers made contact, a surge of energy exploded, spreading throughout his entire being. It wasn't painful but filled him with an overwhelming sense of strength, as though every doubt and fear he had ever held were being washed away. In their place, a fierce inspiration and burning determination took root. "I accept," Elon said, his voice resonating, stronger than ever. The entity nodded, the light around it flaring one last time, brilliant yet not blinding. "Then go," the entity said. "And remember, the greatest creations are not machines, but the things that uplift the human spirit." With a gentle motion, the entity dissolved into the space around him, leaving Elon standing alone in the radiant hall. Part 6. Awakening. Elon's eyes snapped open. The room around him was dark, but the warmth from the dream lingered. He lay in bed, yet his mind felt as though it was still floating amidst the mysterious images he had just experienced. He sat up, glancing around his familiar bedroom. Everything was silent, but it felt as if every object in the room emitted an invisible energy, as though the world itself had been reshaped. Elon's gaze shifted to the desk beside his bed. His notebook, always there, seemed to carry a new significance tonight. Without hesitation, he reached for a pen and began to write. Ideas flooded his mind, clear as if they had been sketched out long ago. He wrote about a transparent government system, about integrating technology to improve efficiency, and about ways to bring respect and compassion into places often overlooked. The clock read 5:03 a.m., January 19th, 2025, less than 24 hours before Elon Musk was to be sworn in as head of the Government Efficiency and Reform Office. A new day had begun, carrying with it expectations, pressures, and the excitement of the mission he was about to undertake. Elon had endured a long night, but he felt no fatigue. Instead, a powerful sense of urgency burned within him. "It's time," he said, his eyes fixed on the horizon where the first light of dawn began to break. The sky was tinged with a faint golden glow, reflecting the field from his dream. Elon rose to his feet, his eyes filled with determination. He knew the journey ahead would not be easy, but for the first time he felt no fear. "I will make history," he whispered. And this time it wasn't just a dream, it was a promise to himself. If this story has touched your heart, we'd be deeply grateful if you could help spread its message by clicking like and sharing it with your friends. Help us reach our first milestone of 1,000 subscribers. It means so much to us and will enable us to bring you more inspiring stories. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next story.